French Revolution, a period of radical social and political upheaval in France from 1789 to 1799, marked by the overthrow of the monarchy, the rise of Robespierre's reign of terror, and the establishment of the First French Republic. American Revolution, the colonial revolt against British rule in the American colonies from 1765 to 1783, resulting in the independence of the United States and the formation of a new nation. Bolshevik Revolution, the Bolshevik-led uprising in Russia in 1917, which overthrew the provisional government and led to the establishment of the Soviet Union under Lenin's leadership. Chinese Revolution, the series of political and social upheavals in China from 1911 to 1949, including the overthrow of the Qing dynasty, the establishment of the Republic of China, and the victory of the Communist Party under Mao Zedong. Cuban Revolution, the armed revolt led by Fidel Castro and Che Guevara against the dictatorship of Fulgencio Batista in Cuba, resulting in the establishment of a socialist government in 1959. Indian Independence Movement, the non-violent struggle for independence from British rule in India, led by Mahatma Gandhi and other nationalist leaders, culminating in the country's independence in 1947. Civil Rights Movement, the social and political campaign for racial equality and civil rights in the United States, primarily during the 1950s and 1960s, aimed at ending racial segregation and discrimination against African Americans. Women's Suffrage Movement, the movement advocating for women's right to vote and participate in politics, which gained momentum in the late 19th and early 20th centuries and led to the extension of voting rights to women in many countries. Fall of the Berlin Wall, the symbolic event in 1989 marking the end of the Cold War and the reunification of East and West Germany, as the Berlin Wall, which divided the city for nearly 3 decades, was demolished. Collapse of the Soviet Union, the dissolution of the Soviet Union in 1991, resulting in the independence of its constituent republics and the end of the Cold War-era dominance of the Soviet bloc. 9/11 attacks, terrorist attacks on September 11, 2001, in the United States, carried out by the extremist group Al-Qaeda, leading to significant changes in global politics, including the war on terror and increased security measures. Arab Spring, a wave of pro-democracy protests and uprisings that swept across several Arab countries in the Middle East and North Africa in the early 2010s, leading to political reforms, regime changes, and civil wars in some cases. Brexit, the United Kingdom's referendum vote in 2016 to leave the European Union, resulting in political and economic ramifications, both domestically and internationally. Indian Partition, the partition of British India in 1947 into the independent nations of India and Pakistan, resulting in widespread violence, displacement, and communal strife. Tiananmen Square, protests, the pro-democracy demonstrations in Beijing's Tiananmen Square in 1989, which were brutally suppressed by the Chinese government, leading to casualties and a crackdown on dissent. Vietnam War A conflict between North Vietnam, supported by communist allies, and South Vietnam, backed by the United States and other anti-communist nations, lasting from 1955 to 1975, with significant casualties and political ramifications. Korean War, a war fought between North Korea, supported by communist allies, and South Korea, aided by the United Nations and the United States, from 1950 to 1953, resulting in an armistice and the continued division of the Korean Peninsula. World War I, global conflict from 1914 to 1918, involving most of the world's great powers, fought primarily in Europe, resulting in millions of casualties and profound political and social changes. World War II, a global conflict from 1939 to 1945, involving many of the world's nations, fought between the Axis powers, Germany, Italy, and Japan, and the Allies, led by the United States, the Soviet Union, and the United Kingdom, resulting in widespread devastation and the Holocaust. Cold War, a state of geopolitical tension between the United States and its NATO allies and the Soviet Union and its Warsaw Pact allies, characterized by ideological, political, and military rivalry lasting from the late 1940s to the early 1990s. Iraq War A conflict from 2003 to 2011, led by the United States and its allies against the regime of Saddam Hussein in Iraq, resulting in regime change, sectarian violence, and instability in the region. Afghanistan War, a conflict that began in 2001 with the United States-led invasion of Afghanistan, targeting the Taliban regime and al-Qaeda following the 9/11 attacks, leading to a protracted insurgency and nation-building efforts. Rwandan genocide, the systematic mass slaughter of Tutsi and moderate Hutu Rwandans by the Hutu-dominated government in 1994, resulting in hundreds of thousands of deaths and widespread ethnic violence. Palestinian-Israeli conflict, a long-standing conflict between Israelis and Palestinians over territory, sovereignty, and other issues in the Middle East, with roots dating back to the late 19th century and ongoing tensions and violence. Iranian Revolution, the overthrow of the monarchy in Iran in 1979 and the establishment of an Islamic Republic under Ayatollah Khomeini, leading to significant changes in domestic and international politics. Arab-Israeli conflict, a conflict between Arab states and Israel over territory, borders, and other issues in the Middle East, including wars, diplomatic negotiations, and ongoing tensions. Watergate scandal, a political scandal in the United States in the 1970s, involving the break-in at the Democratic National Committee headquarters and subsequent cover-up by the Nixon administration, leading to President Nixon's resignation. Great Depression, a severe worldwide economic downturn in the 1930s, characterized by mass unemployment, bank failures, and widespread poverty, with significant social and political consequences. Formation of the European Union, the establishment of the European Economic Community, EEC, in 1957, evolving into the European Union, EU, in 1993, as a supranational organization aimed at fostering economic and political cooperation among European countries. Treaty of Versailles, the peace treaty signed in 1919, formally ending World War I and imposing harsh penalties and territorial changes on Germany, contributing to resentment and instability in Europe and laying the groundwork for World War II.